non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. All right, Eric, welcome to Non-Stop Rock Talk. It's great speaking with you. I must say before we begin, I love the work you did with Johnny Gioeli. One Voice was a departure for Johnny, but in a really good way. So tell me, since that album release, what have you been up to musically?
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
No problem.
I appreciate. I'm a fan of your work, man. I've read a lot of your reviews.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, man.
you're actually really honest in those reviews. They're very honest assessments, I think.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
So, but yeah, I've been continuing to write, and I've worked with a few artists in a collaborative thing. It's kind of a situation like one of the people being I've worked with a couple rock guys that just want to see if the collaboration will work. So we're kind of in the phase of that, of trading songs back and forth. And oh geez, actually after One Voice, I wrote some songs with one of the American Idol kids, one of those finalists. And I'm not going to say who it is because it never came to fruition for various reasons, but that was interesting. It was weird because that's a totally different world, those American Idol and The Voice people. Like, to me, they haven't paid any dues, and they're just singing on YouTube, basically. So it was interesting trying to work with those kids, and I can say that it was a very green situation. They didn't really understand how it worked, so there was a lot of butting heads, and they didn't understand how collaborating with other songwriters works.
Right.
They're used to people telling them, "Hey, sing this song. Listen to this tape and sing this song." So when it came down to writing their own material, it was rough. It was tough. So I've been doing that, and there's a couple other singers I want to work with that I just haven't been able to work out. One I haven't gotten a response from, and then the other one we just can't work out times to get together to work. But we'll see.
So I mean, it's been a year, just a year. I think it was One Voice was released, December last year? Roughly around there? Yeah, so it's been a year. Regardless, it's still worthy of conversation. I understand that you had wrote all the material on that album with Johnny. How did you initially hook up with Johnny?
It's interesting. My wife and I moved out to Hollywood, and for no other reason than she actually needed to be out here. So it wasn't because I needed to be out in Hollywood. And we lived out here for about a year. And one of the things I do out here to stay in shape I go hiking about 3-4 days a week up in the canyons. Musicians got to stay in shape somehow.
Yep. So
I would do that about 3-4 days a week. And my go-to album to listen to was Hardline's Double Eclipse album. And I loved that album back in the day, but I hadn't heard it in a long, long time. So I started listening to that, and that was the only album I listened to religiously 4 days a week. And it was such a great album to, work out to. And I mean, I knew it inside and out. And I think it was maybe after about 4 or 5 months of that, I said, I wonder if this guy is still doing it. I mean, he's probably one of the best singers I'd ever heard, to this day. I was like, I'm going to see what he's doing. So I look him up and I see, well, he's still doing the Hardline thing in Europe. Like, I wonder if he, I wonder if he'd be interested in writing or doing something like that. And I saw he was thinking about doing a solo record. So I contacted his representative. I said, hey, my name is Eric, so-and-so, let her know who I was. And I sent a couple demo, just music beds. And I said, hey, see if Johnny's interested in, doing any songwriting or anything. And literally, I think it was maybe an hour later, I got an email back from her, and she said, "Oh my God," she goes, "I did. I sent. I kn-" She remembered who I was at Racquel,
Right.
back in the late '80s, early '90s. She's like, "I know who you are." She goes, "Yeah, I'm absolutely going to get this to Johnny." And later that night, I got a call from him, and he said, "Eric, yeah, I heard this stuff. I love it. Let's do something." And I was like, "Okay." And he told me about the solo record and what he was going to do as far as the pledge music thing with the fans, and all the proceeds were going to go to a disabled teenager in his community. And he explained all that to me, and I thought it was great. I thought that was such a fantastic, thing to do, first of all, but I I thought it would do really, really well. And we kind of started from there. Just started trading back and forth, song ideas and whatnot. That's kind of how it started.
So I seem to recall, I guess it would be about 2 years ago, Johnny had delivered a sneak peek of the song Drive on the internet. It was kind of on, I think it was on a Facebook thing. When I first heard that song, I was just, wow, it blew me away. I was like, that's a killer song. I hope the rest of the album's going to be like that. So that song, for some reason, it reminds me of California. I don't know what it is about it. Like would you present that to him just in the music, and then he'd write the lyrics to it? Is that how that worked with him?
I would say a lot of it was, yeah. When we talked about doing the record, I asked him questions like that. I said, "Well, what do you want to?" He liked what I was doing. I sent him a few tunes, and then I said, "Well, should we do some more stuff that's more like in the vein of like a hard line, or do you want to even go heavier than that with like an ex-Racquel thing?" Or he's like, "No, dude." He's like, "No." He's like, "Just send me everything that you have." He was not interested in making another hardline record or a clone of that or anything else. He was hearing something totally different for himself when he heard this stuff. So I did send him, I sent him some bizarre songs too. There's some songs that actually made the record where I sent him, I'm like, what could he possibly sing on this? And he'd send back a demo with him singing on it, and it was just like, holy shit. I couldn't believe what he was coming up with. Now, there were some songs where I think it was Price We Pay. He actually sent me, it was him playing the piano and some of the lyrics in the chorus of that song. And I took that and kind of deconstructed it and made it to where what I thought you should be hearing on it. So piano changed to guitar, that sort of thing. So that song was built a little differently. One Voice was literally, he was actually on tour with ex-Racquel, and he called me up one night. He's like, "Eric," actually he texted me because it's hard to call from over there. He texted me, he says, I have this song. I woke up, it was in my head, and he sent me an audio file of just him singing it. There was nothing, just him singing this melody. And I was like, okay. So I took that and made the chorus. That's what he sent me, was the chorus line. And as I was listening to it, I'm like, man, I have a guitar riff that fits perfectly with that. It was a guitar riff I had wrote 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That whole guitar riff,
yeah,
that was a song bit that I had like years and years and years and years ago. And I had just remembered, I was like, oh my God, that fits perfectly. So I put that at the top end of that, came up with a bridge. And so that's how that one was built. But most of the other ones, I had some song beds that I sent to him. We would come up with, B sections or bridges a little bit later, or solo sections. But I would say maybe 60% of it was I just sent him music, and he would send it back. and literally he would send it back within like a couple hours.
Really?
With him singing, yeah, and he'd have some lyric ideas and all the melody lines. And I was sitting there going, where is this guy from? I mean, it was pretty amazing how great a songwriter he is. I just, not that I didn't think he was a great songwriter, but to work with him was pretty amazing. The guy is a machine, man.
Yeah, when talking to him, interviewing him, I mean, he's still excited. Like, if you talk about Double Eclipse with him,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he will tell you, I'm sure you've talked to him, he will tell you everything about that album and all the funny things that went along with it and all the, the imitation of Neil Sean's voice that makes me crack up every time he does it.
Or the head bob. Did you ever see
yeah.
him do the Neil Sean head bob?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But he had alluded to the fact that, like he usually does write his melodies and his lyrics quickly.
He does, and every single note, every single lyric. The one thing about him was, and when I'm working, I'll work really hard, but when I'm not working, I shut it down, man. I'm watching movies or something,
Yeah.
I don't do anything.
Yeah.
This guy, literally, from when he wakes up to when he goes to bed, is doing something. He's working on 3 albums at a time. He's working on 2 other businesses that have nothing to do with music, and has a family.
Yeah.
And it was kind of contagious. So when we started to work together, he really got me moving. So once we got the ball rolling, I was sending him at least 3 or 4 songs a day. And we were just going back and forth like that. And I think when it was all said and done, we probably had almost, I would say there had to be at least 31, 32 songs.
Wow.
To choose from. And we could have kept going, but he had to go on tour. And so we worked really fast, really efficiently. And I would say that a lot of that time, too, was him and I getting to know each other. I mean, when we first started this thing, we would just text back and forth and nothing about music. Him and I would be watching, he's a Rangers fan, and I'm from Pittsburgh. They'd be playing the Penguins, and we'd be watching it on TV, texting. And my wife would look at me, she's like, who are you texting? I'm like, well, I'm texting with Johnny. We're watching the hockey game. And she would go, you guys are like 13-year-old girls texting. And it was really just him and I getting to know each other. And we had so much in common, I think, because we kind of came up at the same time, had kind of similar experiences in music back then, although Hardline made it further than my band did, just because of timing. It was very similar. We had a lot of similar interests. So I think that's why it worked, and it worked efficiently, and we got along, and it happened really fast. So the record was written extremely fast.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
It's funny that, talk about Hardline, but I think those years in Burnett for him too, where they just couldn't seem to get a break, right? They had Bill Aucoin, was it Bill Aucoin? Yeah, Bill Aucoin managing them, and it seemed like things were going well, but they just couldn't, and then they just folded, and then they were going to do that. Him and his brother were going to do that Hard Rock Nelson thing, and
Right.
Neil came along, and the rest is history, right? But I
always tell Johnny that when they were in Los Angeles, playing the clubs and stuff, and he would always say, Brunette, we used to set all kinds of attendance records in those venues and stuff. And we would always joke back and forth. I said, you know what? If Racquel was playing in those clubs regularly, we would have had all those attendance records.
That's right.
He's like, no, I don't think so, dude. I was like, no, we would have. So we would go back and forth. So we had a lot in common as far as that goes, because I think we were doing that at literally the same age almost, and the same experiences. So it was a lot of fun, but I think we were on the same wavelength. I think even now at this point in life, we were on the same wavelength as far as when you work, how much you work, what you put into it, your passion for it. It just, you can't predict those things. You can't put two people in a room and expect them to get along. It happens like once, 1 in 500 people.
That's so true. That's a good point.
Yeah. So this was I think it was just kind of lightning in a bottle with the way we worked.
Yeah.
Together.
I mean, I think it shows in the album, though. I think it really does. It doesn't sound pretentious. It's not like, sometimes you listen to an album and it almost, and I hate to say this, some of the Frontier stuff, and I don't mean to insult them, but sometimes it almost sounds forced. There's certain albums that might sound forced, or sometimes they'll put a band together with like 4 guys that are all musicians in other bands, and hey, let's put this band together and we'll call it this and we'll put this out. And I always find a lot of times with those albums that I'm like, I don't dig this. There's not, that chemistry's not there. It's just not there, right? But what I found with One Voice is it really fit well. Like the two of you guys writing together, working together. It was just a good album.
I mean, we had so much freedom on this album since it was his album. We did not have any boundaries at all. In fact, he told me, he's like, no, Eric, the gloves are off. Just send me everything. I don't care what it is. If I like it, and I hear something, I'm going to sing on it. And man, that was really a great situation to have. One of those songs that comes to mind was Deeper. I mean, if you heard the demo of that, it's similar. It's very close to what we ended up with. But when I sent them, I'm like, there's no way in hell. What is he going to sing on this? So I sent it to him, and literally that night he sent me a demo of him singing on that. And I said, oh my God. I mean, I know that might not be a lot of people's favorite, but when I heard that, and a lot of people I know heard that, they were like, holy shit, that's a hit song. Maybe it could be if a female pop singer was singing it.
Yeah.
They would get it. Maybe they would get it. But man, when he came up with that, I was just like, so there was no criteria, let's put it that way. So that's why some of the songs stray from each other a little bit. But for the most part, I think we picked the group of songs that fits kind of cohesively. Because, ultimately there was about 30 or 31 songs that could have been on it.
Did he ever allude to the song Mind Melt? Did he ever explain what he meant on that? What I look at it and I go, Mind Melt. What is he trying to say there? Like I listened to it because I was just listening to it the album the other day. So, and I'm still like, that's an interesting title. Like, I think only only a guy like him would come up with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the main idea of it was, I remember when he came up with the lyrics for that, he had a million things going on. That particular day, at that particular month, this album, he was doing another album. It was Christmas time. He was doing a million things at once. And I think the idea of it was, here, try to get inside my mind for a little bit. See, if you got inside my mind a little bit, you would see it's just a mind melt. It's just like there's so much shit happening. I think that was. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to get him on the specifics of it, but I think that was the idea.
I think I meant to ask him that, and we got sidetracked. It is possibly. I think that's probably my favorite track on the album. I asked Johnny when we interviewed if he was familiar with a band called Vertical Horizon, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but yeah, that song, I thought that has a real Vertical Horizon feel to it. And he said he had never heard of them. So with that said, was your approach to One Voice to write material that was a little more modern styling rather than melodic hard rock that Johnny is known for? And was he? I think you kind of alluded to the fact, but he seemed like he was inclined to go in that direction a little bit more.
He was, and I think it just happened because my writing style had evolved to more of a modern kind of commercial approach to it. I mean, and I think we did talk about it briefly. We wanted this album we wanted a bigger, broader range of people to hear it. And if you do a metal record, you're only going to hit so many people. If you do a country record, you're only getting a country market. So the idea was to let's make this as broad as possible. Let's not just cater to maybe hardline fans or ex-Racquel fans. And we did talk about it. It wasn't conscious. We literally just wrote the stuff as it came out. But as the process was going, we realized that, wow, this is modern. This is kind of like more of in the mainstream rock thing. And so I think it just happened in a good way, because we wanted as many people to hear it as possible for the reasons that we were doing the record.
Yeah.
We wanted people to donate. We wanted people to buy the record and enjoy it. We wanted young people, housewives. We wanted to tap into all those people. And there wasn't a specific conscious effort, but as we were going, we realized, oh wow, you could hear this on the radio tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing. I didn't want to end up at the end of the songwriting session with a metal record saying, oh shit, only heavy metal people are going to buy this. No offense, but it's a limited fan base.
Totally. And especially now. I mean, like going back 30 years ago, it wasn't a limited fan base. It's a lot of those guys or girls. But now it's, there's some that still really, really love it, like myself, and still stand behind it. But a lot of people have moved on. Maybe they've gone to country or whatever.
So that's kind of where my songwriting progressed to. And when I presented it to him, Johnny loved it. He loved, because he never really had done a record like that, and I think he really wanted to. And for better or worse, it was a break from what he was doing with Hardline. It was a break from what he was doing with ex-Racquel, and even the Sega or the what's the video game he does music for? Sonic. Yeah, it was a departure from that too, because I mean, there's such different styles of music, and this is one that he really gravitated towards. I mean, he may or may not tell you this, but I think he likes it a lot more than some of the other records he's done. So
he seemed pretty excited about it, to be honest with you. When I spoke with him, we talked pretty in depth about it. Now, with that said, do you think there's going to be another one?
I think there is. We've been talking. Actually, I've been sending him tunes now. He's. I know he's out on the road now, and I don't know when he goes with the ex-Racquel thing. But we're talking about it now. I don't know if it's going to be a Frontiers record thing or not. We haven't gotten that far yet. I think after Christmas, everyone's more focused on getting the year done, and but he said he wants to do one. So
that's. Look for
we're just, as we figure it out, we're continuing to write. So actually, probably by the time we figure it out, we'll already have it written. So
funny. So we kind of getting back to that. We were talking about Vertical Horizon and Lifehouse. You had a band after. Well, we're going to talk about Racquel, but I'd like to talk about what you were doing between Racquel and up until that point. You were still doing music.
I was. I mean, essentially, I after Racquel, I got out for a long time. I wrote at home and continued to keep my chops going. But I really didn't do anything till probably about 1996, maybe about 5 or 6 years after all of that. And just really started to write, started to play with some friends. And in about 2000, I got a call from actually the old drummer in Racquel, who had become a really good producer, amazing producer. He called me, said he was working with this band, and they were really good, but they were really young. They didn't have a clue really songwriting. They were very green that way. They had a lot of good ideas, but didn't know how to put them together. He's like, "What do you think about coming in and playing guitar, or and doing some songwriting with them?" And I said, "Well, I'll go and see them. Let me go take a look at it first before I agree to anything." And I went to see them. And they were really talented. The drummer was amazing, and the lead singer was one of the best performers I had seen in a long time. Really great live band, but you could tell they did. The only way I could put it was they were a little green. They didn't really know how to songwrite and get the best out of what they did. So I got involved with that and ended up where they asked me to be in the band. And the band was called Mercury, and we did one record together, and then it turned into I think we ended up doing 3 releases over 10 years. And it was a really fun experience because they were considerably younger than me, and they kind of got my juices flowing again with it. So the timing of it was really good because at the time I didn't really want anything to do with the business. It had turned into something in the 90s that I just didn't get, man. I was not getting, and I wasn't going to conform to that stuff. I wasn't going to put on a fucking flannel shirt and do all that shit. So it came at a good time because it got me back in, got me songwriting again, and the guys were fun and we got along. And we did it for about 10 years. And got to the point where we almost got a record deal a couple times. The material was really strong, and we had a really good system down with songwriting. Sean was the producer with producing the songs, and we really had a system down. And I think record companies recognized that. They're like, "Oh my God, these guys are good. Not only that, they could pump out material." And for whatever reason, we just kind of got passed over in that, like, I remember the one was, we were getting looked at by Wind Up Records, the big label that had Evanescence and...
Is Creed on that label? Yeah.
Yeah, Creed. Yeah, Creed. And we were really excited because that was a label, it was a husband and wife, and they only had like 7 or 8 artists on their label. And they really developed them. They were really into getting a solid band and developing it. And it was the perfect situation for that band, for our band. And they were really interested. We had several meetings. They had seen us. And I think they had told us this. They were deciding between us. And I want to say it was that band Finger 11.
Canadian band, yeah.
And yeah, and they said, "Listen, we're only going to sign one more band this year. It's either going to be you guys or there's this band Finger 11." Yep. I had never heard of them, and ultimately, I think they did a record with them, and that was the end of that.
You know what? It's funny. They were actually originally called the Rainbow Butt Monk. And they put out an album as the Rainbow Butt Monkeys. I believe they won a contest on one of our radio station here, like one of those homegrown type of things. And I think, I can't remember exactly, but I do have the CD of the Rainbow Butt Monk. But it doesn't sound anything like Finger 11 sounded like. This is like mid-90s. I haven't listened to it in so long, so I couldn't tell you. I don't remember what it sounds like. Didn't sound like Finger 11. That's just ironic that it was you guys in them.
I'm almost 100% that it was that band.
I'm pretty sure they were on Wind Up.
because one of the other guys said, I think it was Five Finger Death Punch. And I was like, there's no fucking way there was a label looking at us and Five Finger Death Punch at
It
the
seems
same time.
back.
So I think it was Finger
11. What were they? Were late 90s, early 2000s when those albums came out, I believe.
It would have been about 2002 or 3, something around there.
Yeah, I was listening
like,
to a lot of those bands, and I was listening to like Creed and Finger 11 and stuff like that.
we were really bummed out because that was a good label, and they were really interested in taking us to the next level, and we needed a little help that way. Because none of us, we did a good job working the business side of things on our own in a tri-state area type of way. But the business had changed so much that they understood it. They knew how to market bands, and I just didn't anymore. It had changed so drastically in that 10-year period, like in the 90s, meaning that bands were playing for peanuts and,
Yeah,
there was no business.
The internet was starting to make way. It was already around, Napster was around then.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the beginning of, I would call it the end
Yeah.
for making money as an artist, really.
Yeah.
I really dug a lot of the bands in the late 90s, 2000. I was not a big grunge fan, so I was not into that at all. And being an 80s guy, I was just like, what the hell is going on? But then I thought later in the 90s, like bands like Lifehouse, early 2000s, Vertical Horizon, I was listening to a lot of that stuff because I was really digging it. I thought the songs were solid. The writing was good. It had gotten back to the songs again. It wasn't depressing. So, and then that changed pretty quickly too. Like,
it didn't last long.
It was, and now what lasts really? I mean, the older bands are back and they can go sell out somewhere, but you don't hear of a lot of newer bands that are doing really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think 80s and early 90s rock had such a big fan following that when those people got to be in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s, those were the people that had the money to go to shows. Those are the people that had monies to buy T-shirts, and we all know what ticket prices for shows are. It's like insane, and those are the people that could afford to do it. No, it's no longer the young crowd. It's so I think that's why there was a big resurgence of 80s bands and stuff like that. I mean, I think it was the music and the experience. I mean, I don't think people were buying Motley Crue stuff because they were womanizing and drug dealing. Yeah. I think they dug the music and going to a show and seeing lights and stuff like that. So, yeah, those are the fans that could afford to do it.
I'm hearing that the tickets for that tour are going to be, there's a rumor that they're going to be pretty hefty for the Def Leppard, Poison, what is it, Joan Jett, Motley Crue thing? Yeah,
Poison.
Which is kind of unfortunate because maybe there are kids that are kind of leaning towards listening to that music and they can't afford to go.
I'll be very curious. I mean, listen, anybody that plays with Def Leppard is going to be a sold-out arena. Now, I don't know about a stadium. That remains to be seen. But that's some heavy hitters there. So I would love to be Joan Jett on that tour.
Oh man, no kidding.
She is gonna do so well because she has no responsibility whatsoever. They're just gonna sandwich her in there. She's gonna kick ass and not have to worry about anything.
That's funny. So let's get back to Racquel. So it's funny because and I apologize for this, I was not familiar with the band until Johnny mentioned it to me. And he said, Canada was a little funny sometimes too, because there was stuff you wouldn't get here. We have to have Canadian content on our radio stations, which is a percentage. I can't remember. I think it's like 40%. I could be wrong on that. So they've got to play Canadian content, and then American bands, we get them, but it's usually the bigger American bands. So anyways, so I was watching the video for Pop Goes the Music just the other day. I couldn't help but notice the production. It sounds great. Like, that song sounds phenomenal. The bass is pumping.
Yeah.
It sounds good. Now, this was a song that apparently caused a little bit of controversy. It's been something to do with a lawsuit directed towards Nirvana. I'm sure you can't say too much, but if there's anything you can say, I'm not totally familiar with the story either. So I've read a little bit on the internet, but.
Well, yeah, I can't say a whole hell of a lot about it, but what I can say was the way it came about was we were hired and asked to do a commercial for the Art Institutes International, which I don't know if you know what the Art Institutes was, but it was basically a college that taught things all music industry, like sound recording, managing, all aspects of music and video and stuff like that. It was a college, and it was an international company, so they had schools all over the country, and at the time it was a pretty big deal. And they wanted to do a commercial campaign, and they asked us to be in the commercial. And we said, well, yeah, we'll do it, but you have to use one of our songs. And we presented them with one of the songs we thought would work, and they really liked it. They thought it fit in. And we said, also, the only way we would do this is if you do a full-length video for the song for us. And they agreed to it. They said, oh, absolutely. We're shooting it anyway. So we didn't really realize on what scale it was going to be, but it was an enormous scale. They shot, it was Hollywood movie type production.
Oh.
I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars spent. Just hundreds of people working on this thing. And so we shot it, got our video, and they commercials on MTV, and that's kind of how people around the country got to know us, because they'd see this commercial all the time. And they'd see the Racquel banner in the back in the video, and they'd look us up, or they'd buy a record online, or send away or call or wherever at the time. And that's kind of how we got known. We had a term contract with that. It was only supposed to last a couple years, and that was it. I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 years later. I think it was about 3 years later. Someone called us that was with the Art Institutes and said, hey, hey, we just want to let you know, Nirvana called us and they're going to use, the Racquel video in one of their home videos. They were all happy and gung ho about it. Got off the phone and I talked to the other guys, and one of the other guys in the band said, wait, Nirvana wants to use our video in one of their home videos? That can't possibly be good. I remember that vividly, someone saying that can't possibly be a good thing. And they put out a home video, and the beginning of it is the Racquel commercial for the Art Institutes. And then one of the guys in the band slams it in the video. I don't know exact words he says, but he says like, kill them all or something. And we saw it and we're like, wait a minute, they didn't, no one asked us if they could have permission for us to be in this thing. So that's how it started. Yeah, no one contacted us. Nobody, they just put it in their video and slammed it. And I don't even know. I don't even know if they were slamming us or if they were slamming the Art Institute. I didn't know what. All I knew was they put us and our song in their video. And so we got lawyers involved, and they filed a lawsuit. It kicked around in the courts for many, many years because there was some discrepancies in the copyright, some kind of technicalities that the other sides that were involved kept getting it kicked out of court. And then we ended up hiring new lawyers, and they straightened it all out. It actually ended up going to the U.S. Supreme Court. And they ruled in favor that we couldn't be thrown out of court because of a technicality like that. And then once that happened, everything was settled. Yeah, it was. I look back on it now. It was kind of a weird thing. I have no idea why they would have done that. Knowing what I know now about Dave Grohl, I just don't see him as the type of person that would have been. Yeah. He's a music fan, so I don't. I think it was. I just thought it was weird that it even happened. But yeah, so we settled it out of court, and I think the good thing that happened out of it was that's important. And if anybody wants to get any information about it, I mean, it's all public record. I mean, you can go into the courts or on online courts and bring up the case and read about it. But I think an important thing is that the Supreme Court came up with a decision that was important. You can't be thrown out of court because a copyright was filed wrong. In fact, it wasn't filed wrong. The court threw it out, and they were mistaken. So it kind of made a good legal precedent, because I think, there's a lot of musicians out there that fill out copyright forms and whatnot, and it's not necessarily important. The big thing is that once you put something out there, that's the date that you have a copyright. It doesn't matter if you file with the Copyright Office or not. Whatever the date is on that physical form that you're selling, you own it. And in order for you to file a lawsuit, then you have to make sure that you have a copyright filed. So the big thing with this is, even if you made a mistake on the copyright or whatever, the court can't dismiss a case that you have because of that. And that was a kind of an important decision, because I know there's a lot of probably copyright suits out there that are facing the same thing. And they cite Racquel versus Geffen Records, Education Management, and whoever the hell Nirvana's management was at the time. And yeah, it was a weird thing. I mean, it's kind of the unfortunate things. I mean, I don't ever remember being angry about that back then. I really wasn't, because you're allowed to say whatever you want to say. I think I was more disgusted that someone's management, like that band's management, would have let that happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to shit on this band.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Or it's okay to steal their fucking song and their video and slam it without permission. That's okay. I just, that caliber, should have had people that knew what they were doing to begin with, that would have never let something like that happen. And chances are they might not even known at the time that it was going to be in their home video. I don't know.
Huh.
But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing.
I'd be kind of curious to, not that I'm ever going to meet Dave Grohl, but to ask him his take on it, because you know what? They probably didn't even know about it. At the time, I think it was. I think at the time they were only going to depose the bass player, because I think he was the one that made the comment on the video. And I think my comment was, "Oh, of course, it was the bass player, the one that no one gives a shit about." So I'm sure, he wouldn't. And you have to remember too, that's when Courtney Love was getting into it with them about ownership. So I'm sure this was not even on any of those guys' radar. They just had all their lawyers working on all this stuff, and it's kind of a weird thing. I think if someone like Dave Grohl, I think if he knew about it, I think he would look back and say, "Man, that was stupid." Because that guy's a fan of music. He wouldn't purposely want to. Yeah, he seems like he's a fan of all the genres. I think Cobain was a little bit. He was anti 80s hair band, or whatever you want to call it. I think he was a little bit more wasn't into that. I think where Dave Grohl was a little more accepting than Kurt Cobain, but I can't say for sure. That was a long time ago too.
Yeah. Yeah, damn. I think that was back I think that all started in 94 or something like that. 90, yeah, probably 93 or 94. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it for a long time until I heard Johnny talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. He mentioned it in our interview, I think. He said, "Damn him."
Damn him.
So for you guys were based in Pittsburgh. What was the scene like in Pittsburgh?
It was actually, back then it was happening. Even though it was a small town, it was really happening. There wasn't, probably the bad thing about it was there was only maybe a half dozen places that you could play that you could fit a decent amount of people in. And then those 6 clubs, if you didn't get the only chance you had was to open up for a national act that would come into town at a bigger venue. But I was in Los Angeles in the late 80s. During that, I had come out here on a trip to work with somebody for a little bit. And so I had a lot of, knew what was going on out here. And I don't think there was much more going differently than in Pittsburgh, just on a smaller scale. I mean, all these clubs were packed. When there was a good band playing, they were packed. I think the only thing that changed for us when we were in it in Pittsburgh, since it was a small town, when we formed that band, the bass player was originally from Chicago, but he had played in a band called DC LaCroix in Los Angeles. And they were a big club band out in LA. So when he moved to Pittsburgh and he joined our band, he kind of brought a lot of that Sunset Strip sensibility as far as promoting a band to us. And, you know, bands were promoting themselves in Pittsburgh, but not at the scale LA bands were, where you'd go out on the Strip and there were 1,000 posters and, you know, so he brought that sensibility to our band, and we kind of applied that in our smaller market. So when you walked down the street, all you'd see was, you know, Racquel posters and, you know, playing here. And, you know, so it kind of had a Hollywood vibe to it. You know, street teams. He said, you know, we need to have a fan club and we have to start a street team. We all looked at him like, what the fuck is a street team? You know, so he said, no, you get fans together, you know, from the fan club that want to help us out. You know, we go out and they help promote the shows. And so he brought a lot of that element to us that a lot of Pittsburgh bands really just didn't understand. But I would say the scene was pretty happening. I mean, there were some really, really good bands. Unfortunately, it was very hard to get record companies to come to Pittsburgh. They were like, Pittsburgh? Why, you know, I could see them, you know, they would say, I go to Chicago or New York or LA, but Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of the guys that you know were maybe not from Pittsburgh, were just on the outskirts of town, like, you know, Bret Michaels. Harrisburg. He was from outside of Pittsburgh. Yeah, Harrisburg. Paul Gilbert was from Greensburg. You know, so a lot of guys, the drummer Bobby from Rat, I think was
Danny Stagg.
Yeah, from the outskirts.
Yeah,
Danny Stagg. Yeah, a lot of them just said they saw that it was a small market and no one was going to come here to see them, and they just said, no, LA's where it's happening. We got to get out there. And you know, some of them were successful and some of them weren't. So I think that's why you don't hear about Pittsburgh as much during that era, but it was happening.
Oh, that's good to know. I love Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Been there many times. Love that city.
Yeah. You go there now and you wouldn't think there was a hair metal scene there at the time. Man, it was happening. Awesome. It really was.
But you guys did do an album. I take it wasn't on a major label.
We did an album on our own that when we came out, we sold just out of the car. And we had done subsequent demos that weren't meant for release. I think we maybe did 2 or 3 of those, and they were decent production quality, but they never were officially released. Like if you're seeing anything now out there, it was a bootleg. I do know there was a European label that got hold of a few of the demos and actually put out a record. We had no idea they were doing
Yeah, I
this.
saw that. That's why I was curious about it, because
I don't remember. Do you remember what the label was when you saw
I
it?
don't. I can see the cover in my head. Like there was an album cover with it. It had a track listing. And that's what confused me, because I'm trying to do some research on it, and I'm like, why can't I find anything on this?
Yeah, that wasn't authorized. I can tell you that. I did find out about it, and I think one of the guys sent them a cease and desist order on it, and then they stopped printing it because we had no idea they were doing it. This was like just when the internet started, really. And we're like, okay, well, this label's in Europe. How are we going to stop this? And they offered us no. They didn't say, oh yeah, sorry, we didn't ask for permission, but we're going to give you X amount of dollars if we can keep selling. They didn't do that. So yeah, it was a weird thing. The album we did one album, we did like a couple full-length demos, but they weren't officially released, and I don't know how that stuff got out. The intention was these were for record labels only, and I don't know how it got out there, but there was only one official record, and it was okay. The band was put together, and we got out so quickly that I think when we put the band together, because we were all in competing bands, and it was put together like in a summer of that year, like in August, and we started playing shows 3 months later. So it happened so quick that the demo that we had, we didn't have time to go in a studio and spend all kinds of money. And so the first record, it's okay. It's not the greatest in the world. Only subsequently, like that Pop Goes the Music song, was where we had an actual producer helping us do it.
Which explains a lot now, because I was like, wow, this video looks, like you said, it was pro shot, right? And
yeah, big time. They spent a lot of money on
good. So was there label interest?
Yeah, there was a ton. So the initial idea was, wow, this thing's big. Our attorney at the time was in Los Angeles, and he was big time. He represented Warrant. He represented anybody who was anybody in that genre. He was signing all these deals for these bands, and he thought we were the shit. He said, listen, come out, just spend a month out here and play the Strip. I guarantee you will walk out of here with a record deal. And a couple of us wanted to do it, and a couple of us didn't want to do it. They're like, listen, we're doing so well here. There's no reason why a record company couldn't come to Pittsburgh and see what we were doing, that we had an appeal, and then just take it from there. So, yeah, we wanted to end up in California, some of us, and then others didn't because of various reasons. One being it's very expensive. And some of the guys had wives and houses and things like that. They just couldn't pick up and move to Los Angeles. So ultimately, we got it out there, and a lot of labels surprisingly came to see us. Quite a few. I would say at least 5 or 6 major labels came to see us. Yeah, it was, and once the first or second one came, we were like, there's no reason to go to Los Angeles. Why get in that rat race when we don't have to? They're coming here. If they want us bad enough, they'll sign us out of here. I mean, what's the difference if they walk into a room and there's 1,000 people here or 1,000 people in the whiskey? There's no difference. So once they started coming, it happened. it was a timing thing. We were probably like right around 1991, 91, 92. And that's when the hint of that Seattle thing was starting to emerge. And record companies were coming to see us, but that was starting to spread quickly. And it was just the timing of it, man. They just, all of a sudden, they were coming to see us. We were close. And then it ended. They just didn't want anything to do with that genre of music. We were so close. I was actually really excited because you remember the band Wilson Phillips? Their record label wanted to sign, a band like us, a commercial, heavy metal kind of hair metal band, and they loved us. And they really only had Wilson Phillips. And I'm trying to think of the other band that was on the label at the time. It was SBK Records. And they had seen us, I think, twice, and we thought, this is it, man. They had the money, they had the clout. That record label was doing great, and then all of a sudden, the hammer hit, man. That Nirvana record came out, and Pearl Jam, and it just was like a floodgate, and no one wanted to even listen to the stuff we were doing. And Racquel, if you go and listen to it, some of those songs, I didn't even really classify that as like, other than the way we looked, it really wasn't hair metal. Certainly the later stuff we were doing, it was not like your typical, it wasn't like Cherry Pie or something like that. Some of those songs, like lyrically too, they were very deep. Like you wouldn't expect, you wouldn't hear it on a Motley Crue record. One of the songs we had, it was called Dark City. And the lyrics were about domestic abuse. Yeah, I mean, it was and they were really well done, and it had a message. So it wasn't like the songs we were doing were sugar-coated fluff like some of those bands were doing. So it was a bummer, man. It really was. I didn't hate the Seattle scene for that happening because I'm all for like new things coming. But the way it decimated, the way the music industry turned their backs on some really talented people was just unbelievable to me. I mean, some of those bands that got dumped, even like we talked about Hardline, they had signed their record deal right before all that shit happened. And now all that Seattle stuff happened when Hardline released their record at the same time. So they were just slightly ahead of Racquel as far as, getting their record out there. But man, their record company just said, "That's it, guys. See ya." And you're talking about some seriously talented dudes that could have not tried to emulate what Seattle was doing, but at least let them try to develop. Let us. We're not just hair metal guys. We can develop this thing into something else that's good. But they didn't. No one of those bands were given the opportunity. It was weird, it's kind of a bummer.
Because there were still metal bands, but the thrash bands were now, like, you take Megadeth and Pantera got popular in that time. Mm-hmm. White Zombie, Metallica was from 91 on, from 89 on, or whatever you want to call it. They were always huge, but 91 was that big pinnacle Black album. But it was weird because those thrash bands became more of metal bands and they became popular. But if you were categorized as a hair band, you were no good. And then some of those hair bands, like you take, for instance, Warrant's Dog Eat Dog album, they went heavier, and that was a phenomenal album.
That's a great album.
And people just did not gravitate towards it. They're just like, oh, it's Warrant, forget about them. This is no good. But Janie Lane wrote his ass off on that album.
And the guitar player, Joey Allen. I mean, that is an amazing record. And so at that time, too, I think was when Motley Crue came out with the Karabi record. Was that, how later
was that? 94.
Was that 90?
So Dog Eat Dog came out 92, I think. Yeah. I think it was around the time as Hardline. There's a bunch of albums. I think, was it 92 or 93, Dog Eat Dog? I can't remember. No, it would have been 92 because Cherry Pie was 90. And that's when you started to see everything change, right? And,
well, and I watched that with, I bought that Dog Eat Dog record, that Warrant album, and I thought it was killer. And I really wanted to watch that to see, because, that was the last record they had on their record deal. And I wanted to see, okay, can that band emerge from all of this? Same with Motley Crue. I mean, Motley Crue is Motley Crue, but still, that album they did with Corabi was just, yeah. I mean, it was really heavy. It was different than old Motley Crue. I think Motley emerged just because they had so many hits in the past. People were going to go see them no matter what. Warrant just couldn't escape what they had done on that first record. No, they just could not escape it.
When you're wearing sequenced outfits, people don't forget that. Like the matching white sequenced outfits.
Yeah,
that was people remembered that. So,
but listen, when that video, what video is that for? Is that for Heaven? Okay, listen. My hair was longer than those fucking guys, and I was wearing some weird looking shirts. But when that video came out and I saw that, I questioned too. I was like, listen, I'm not wearing fucking matching white outfits in the video ever. I mean, listen, say what you want about them, but that was a very underrated band. And that record you're talking about was a killer record. Yeah, and I think it's going to be probably one of those ones that people rediscover. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I loved it when it came out, and I remember listening to it on headphones and thinking, wow, because there's a lot of production stuff on that was like, there's stuff left and right and back and forth, and some of the vocals, the vocal on A Bitter Pill, where Janie's singing, and I mean, they EQ'd it funny, and just, it was just so, there was just, for me, there was a lot going on there on that album, and I really dug it. And maybe it will be. I hope it is one of those albums that people gravitate back to and go, you know what, that was a phenomenal album.
Back then, we got to meet those guys when they were in town, and I remember saying to myself, and I really haven't experienced it since, actually, when I worked with Johnny, because it was a similar personality. Jamie Lane was so humble at that time. I mean, we met those guys, when they were at the height of their popularity. And those guys were really, really humble. They were very, very cool. And it was a good thing to see. And I really, you meet a lot of these bands and everyone has their own personalities, but he struck me, when I met Johnny, it reminded me of that. Very humble, wasn't full of himself, wasn't like taking himself seriously. And it's a shame the way that ended. I just don't understand why he couldn't come out of it, because he was such a nice guy. I mean, he really was. Eric Turner, too. Eric Turner was the same way. I talked to him for hours that night I met him, and, we all had the same thing in common. But some of them are dicks and some of them aren't, in the business.
Yeah, that's so true, right? Yeah, that's true. Anyways, Eric, I think that's pretty much all I've got for today. Thanks, man. That was really good and insightful, and we covered a lot of ground. So that was amazing.
I enjoyed it. I haven't gotten the chance to talk about the old Racquel days, simply because I'm continuing on.
Yeah.
So right. Hopefully you hear a new Johnny record coming out.
Yes, I look forward to that. I hope we do see that, and I'll be trying to promote that as much as I can.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, okay, Eric. You have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, take care. Okay, bye. 5 a.m. with a cup in hand, gonna feel fine, and I see the land. Just another day to be grateful.
show.